Please don't reset perks on Prestige. PTS feedback. Just for context, it was confirmed on Discord that the perks on each class are going to reset along with the level each time you Prestige. Creating this post for visibility, since I genuinely think that completely resetting perks every time you Prestige is not a very good idea, as it's a very archaic kind of system that feels closer to a chore than actual progression. I'm gonna have to disagree, but alright, let's, obviously their concerns are warranted in a sense. My suggestion is to make it so that while your level drops back to 1 on Prestige, your perks remain unlocked so that you can keep playing the game on the highest difficulties if you want to, similar to how DRG handles promotions. If necessary, implement some kind of resource sync instead. Alright. Hold on. I wanted to complete the post before I said any of my opinions, but I don't understand the point of this. Like, if they were gonna put our level down to 1, what's the point of doing that if our perks remain unlocked? You know what I mean? But okay, they have a point here. So let's continue the post. This way, people can choose whatever builds and difficulties they want to without having to go through the hassle of unlocking everything over and over multiple times, and the experience gain on Lethal Absolute actually makes sense. The incentive to grind is already there. It's the new cosmetics, and in some cases, the prestige perks. Resetting perks just make it more of a hassle to play. Alright. I'm gonna say I disagree. But I'm not going to completely say that their concerns are unwarranted. Like, I understand going from 25 to 1 sounds like a big deal. But we're keeping, as far as I know, we're keeping the rarity to the weapons. So you're level 1 with a relic weapon, with relic weaponry. And then, not to mention, especially if you consider, giving the heavy bolt pistol to multiple classes, you might already have that leveled up, so I don't know. It's overall going to be easier to level up your classes, so I'm not too worried about dropping back to 1 to level up to 25 again. Especially if we get a reward for it as far as prestige perks. I'm more worried about the prestige perks not being worth it. That's what I'm worried about. Like, honestly, I mean, it's going to be something to get, it's going to be something to do, so I'm likely going to do it regardless. But you definitely have to consider that you're going to be using relic weapons. You're going to be able to jump from 1 to 8 just off of like a ruthless run. You get a lot of experience in this game, and I'm actually glad that there's actually going to be a use for it. I'm still kind of concerned with the balance of the prestige perks, so I'm hoping they get buffed, because I do think it's going to be a lot easier to level up if the prestige perks are actually like really strong, So for example, let's say you go from 25 to 1 and you pick your first prestige perk. Well, that prestige perk should be better than any of the first row perks at the very least. You know what I mean? So that perk can help you level up and get the necessary perks that you need. It's going to be really interesting to see certain classes' first row perks and how far they can carry them, because people are going to go from 25 to 1 and jump into lethal or absolute with relic weapons. And yeah, we're going to see lower levels in the game, in absolute and lethal now for sure. But they're not going to be like real lower levels, you know what I mean? They're going to have relic weapons and such. They just won't have the perks, which is still going to be rough. See, that's the thing. You're going to want to, I think this is actually doable at level 10. You know what I mean? Like, go from 25 to 1, go from 1 to like 8 with a ruthless run, you know what I mean? And then as soon as you get a team perk, you should be good to jump into absolute with relic weapons. And then you're going to get a lot of experience for any sort of completion, along with the fact that you do have a prestige perk that should be better than any of your beginning perks, you know what I mean? So I think more of the concern is about how strong the prestige perks are going to be. I looked at a few of them, and it's funny because we did the review of the prestige perks that were leaked, and I had a few comments saying, oh, these aren't going to be final, these aren't going to be the perks that we have, but those kind of were. those kind of were the perks that we had, which is, there are good ones. Like, Tactical has some pretty good prestige perks. Heavy does not. Having extra heavy melee damage is not going to help you level up from 1 to 25, quickly. it's just not going to be very useful at level 1 to have higher melee damage for a heavy. Like, I don't know. You will still have your relic heavy bolter though, so that's pretty good. so honestly, I'm not too concerned about this. I understand why people would be concerned, but I've seriously, I grinded what, 2 tacticals to 25 and 2 bulwarks to 25 because of console and PC. I play on both. The leveling up in this game, as far as I will say veteran players, we should be fine. So by the time you get to prestige and you're ready to prestige your character, I do think you will have the knowledge to level up that character from 1 to whenever you get your team perks. Also your signature perk. I believe signature perk is level 10, right? So regardless, you're going to be able to feel more comfortable leveling up from 1 to 25. It's just going to be a lot easier. I gotta be honest, it's going to be a lot easier than your original leveling up. So doing prestige this way, even though it's archaic, I think it's the best way to do it. I don't think leaving your perks unlocked and going down to level 1 means a lot. In my head, what I thought it was going to be was just another experience bar directly after 25. You know what I mean? But that's not the case. And the more I did think about this, because at first I agreed with this post, but it's going to be really easy to level up from 1 to 10, like right off the bat. You should be able to do that with 2 operations. Like honestly, 2, like a ruthless operation or a substantial operation. Keep in mind, they did buff the amount of experience we got a couple patches ago with the extermination ranks. Pretty sure that's what they're called. Basically, if you take out more enemies, you get more experience. And there's also the gene seed. It's really not uncommon to complete a lethal or absolute run where you have like over 4K, over 5K experience. And I'm just glad that there's going to be a place to put that experience. And also, I want to point out that a prestige level 20 is likely going to be absolute ready. You know what I mean? So I do think this is a valid concern, but I think when we actually, play the game with the, prestige perks and stuff, we're going to understand it's a lot easier to level up. But the prestige perks need to be strong enough to just make it a little bit, to give you a sort of a head start. You know what I mean? The relic weapons are nice, but the prestige perks being strong is going to, basically, that's going to be the reason you want to prestige, is because the prestige perks are going to be strong. So we definitely just need to, keep an eye on prestige perks, because I do think most of them could use like a small buff just to make it a little bit more worth it. So people are actually excited to prestige rather than, a post like this where they're kind of, they're kind of hesitant on prestiging because they're not too sure if they want to level up their character from 1 to 25 again. But again, it's going to be easier. It's going to be way easier to level up. It wouldn't matter so much if some of the essential perks wouldn't be at later levels. Like each time you unlock a perk, you could choose one from the column. I mean, that's interesting. I actually kind of like this idea. It does feel a little janky, but keep in mind, we've received perk reworks, and there are perks in the first row. In the first level of your perks, there are perks that are going to be practically necessary for absolute. Like Purification, for example. Purification is a first row perk for Sniper. As soon as you get that with a Relic Sniper, I believe a level, what is it, level 6, level 7, level 8, a low level Sniper is going to be lethal and absolute ready just because of Purification. Now, with things like Bulwark and like Icon's a little deeper. So I understand that, Bulwarks might have a harder time jumping directly into absolute after their prestige perks. But yeah, this is going to be something I think we can play around, to be completely honest. We just need to keep track of what perks we really want for, our prestige leveling up, basically. Or leveling up after we prestige. Yikes. I guess I just won't be doing prestige. None of those perks are worth losing everything and having to grind all over again. At the very least, you should get a multiplier to your XP like Titanfall did, 2 times on first prestige, 3 times on second, etc. That's a great idea. That's a great suggestion. See, this is why this is why adding solutions to your criticism goes a far way, because, you know, obviously this person is clearly not interested in getting a prestige perk unless it's worth it. And I agree with that, but I don't think the grind's going to be that difficult. I really don't. You're going to have a relic weapon. You're going to be a level 1 veteran player with a relic weapon. You should be able to just jump into Ruthless or Substantial, and you'll get a huge chunk of experience, and you'll be fine to grind all over again. I gotta be honest. I think most players will be fine with the grind, as long as, you know, they know what they're doing and they have the game knowledge for it. But also, I gotta give this comment credit. They have a great suggestion here. Yes, I do think there should be some sort of extra experience. I think I don't know if it needs to be 2 times. 2 times might be too much. You gotta consider some of these runs. You are going to complete the run with like 3,000, 4,000 XP at like Ruthless, Substantial. Okay, definitely not Substantial. I think the highest I've ever had in Substantial was like 2,000 maybe. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have any good ideas with how they can adjust XP for Prestige, but 2 times feels a little bit too much. I think it should be percentage based. Like your first Prestige, it should be like 10 to 20%, maybe 20% more experience, and then your second Prestige should practically just be the same. I think any sort of experience buff will be definitely noticeable. You get a lot of experience in this game. You do. As long as it doesn't reset your weapons, I don't see an issue. I was expecting this type of system to begin with. I mean, yeah, I was definitely expecting some sort of grind for the prestige ranks, 100%. But dude, it's kind of wild how many people are really worried about the prestige grinding. There's a lot of comments that are definitely worried about, you know, basically the prestige perks just being worth it. So I think a great way to just make everybody calm down a little bit would be to look at the prestige perks again. I might need to review them or something just to give my notes on how, like, what I would change for the prestige perks. But like outside of heavy, all the other prestige perks are kind of like good. So I do think they would need a little bit of a buff. Like, I think somebody pointed out that you can get like 15% more range damage or something. That's still going to stack pretty well when you actually fully level your character. But like, yeah, level 1, 15% range damage. I mean, that's still gonna help you in Ruthless, 100%. But not every character's doing that. And I do think it would be a little weird if we just had perks like that for every class. I think that would just feel a little bit like dumbed down, basically. Where it's like, oh, okay, you prestige. Okay, here's your extra range damage. It just feels, I don't know, it just feels a little bit boring. That said, I do think the giving heavy all this melee support is on the way other side of the spectrum when it comes to interesting prestige perks. I do think it's interesting to have a melee heavy. I just don't think it's going to be very strong. That's the thing. Seriously, I don't see myself using melee at all in Absolute, besides that one video I made of it, and I basically, you know, I just stomped here and there. The stomping is okay, but if you have a Melta, you don't need to stomp. If you have a heavy bolter, you don't need to stomp. If you have the plasma incinerator, you shouldn't need to stomp. And then what, the heavy bolt rifle, if that even makes it into vanilla, maybe then you would need some extra melee damage, because a lot of people were suggesting a combat knife for the heavy when he has the heavy bolt rifle, and I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I don't know. It feels too much similar to the other classes, but I would still, you know, if they're gonna buff heavy's melee damage, just give the heavy a melee weapon, I guess. Pretty much. But okay. Yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about the prestige perks. It does feel like a fair amount of people are worried about it, but I did see some good suggestions for, you know, fixes. And yeah, I gotta be honest, I'm not too worried about it. I think we level up very fast in this game, and I'm just excited to be able to add perks to the classes I enjoy. And I want to see, you know, if they can switch up any builds, or if we can make something out of it. You know what I mean? The prestige perks are interesting. They are kind of unique. So there's definitely something there that I'm sure we're gonna have to playtest a bit and try out to really understand how useful Prestige 1 to Prestige 2 can be, like, just to make sure we have the right route to go into your Prestige 1 character, level up really fast, and not be too worried about the grind. So yeah, you just gotta pick the right Prestige perk, I guess. Unless it's, unless the first prestige perk you get is like basically mandatory or it's already picked for you, but I don't think that's the case. I think the case is you get one prestige perk from a column for prestige 1. Yeah, you basically just pick one out of that column, and then yeah, just continue leveling up from there. It really shouldn't be that big of a deal. We should be able to level up pretty fast.